how does the team become more consistent?
Say that again.
How does the team become more consistent?
You know, that's the same thing we're striving for. I think if you look at what we've done over the last couple of weeks offensively, we've become more consistent. I think we've stayed on the ball more, stayed on the field more, have sustained a lot of really long drives. You know, you're talking 12 play, 16, 18 play drives. You know, so we're working to that side of it. Defensively, it's the same thing. I think you got to go back to the fundamentals. You know, we got to continue to harp upon those things. Some of the issues fundamentally on defense is we've had a lot of interchangeable parts. You know, we've kind of mixed match on the defensive line right now. Didn't have Elijah Wade available to us. Lost Martin Anderson pregame warm-up. So trying to get a consistent rotation with the same guys that you're continuing to practice with are the guys that you need to get out there on the field. So hopefully, I think the good part about this week here is just trying to get healthy and see what we have that's available to us.
With the benefit of tape, how did Austin Britton's performance look?
I thought Austin did a nice job. You know, really, it really continued from the Arizona game. I thought when he got in the game in the Arizona game, you know, sometimes you always worry about guys' first opportunity to get in a game. Is the game too big for him? And it wasn't for Austin. I thought he handled the situation. And really, when he got in Arizona, it was a 2-minute situation and did a really nice job and put us down the field and gave us an opportunity to kick a field goal that gave us, you know, a chance to tie the game and send it into overtime. So I thought he continued from there. There were some things he needs to improve upon, like all of us have to do. But I thought for his first start, I thought he did a really nice job.
How's his decision making?
He was good. You know, I think early, you got to kind of have to get into the flow of the game. I think once he got settled down and got into the flow of the game, I think he made some good decisions. He also, and it's the same thing I said going in, I think he's similar to Dorian in the fact that when things are covered, he can beat you with his legs. So they did some decent job a couple times in matching up to our routes and coverage, and then all of a sudden, well, now the quarterback has to, you know, continue to make plays, and I thought that's what he did. So he extended some drives. You know, some of the ways to staying on the field on third down is how do we continue to get third downs, and if they're doing a good job in coverage, but they're not accounting for the quarterback, I think Austin took advantage of that.
In the second half, it seemed like the running game kind of picked up a little bit. Josh Kelly started to get more chunk yardage. Do you think that's more about the defense getting tired, or do you think that's kind of the offense wearing on and being able to break some holes?
It's a combination of the two things. I think when you can be balanced offensively and run and pass, obviously, you know, they were probably a little bit more geared to the run game to start the game because you're playing a new quarterback. You know, and all of a sudden when Austin and the receivers and tight ends started to make some plays in the passing game, that loosens up the run front a little bit more. So I think the two of them complement each other, and we do have two real talented backs, and Josh and Dimitrik, so I think, you know, that helps. But when you can lighten the box count a little bit just because you're throwing the ball so well and you're not allowing people to gang up on one phase, whether it's you throw it all the time or you run it all the time, I thought we did a good job of being balanced in that football game.
With defense, with the pass defense, you know, not doing so great, do you look to try to make bigger changes, or do you try to make smaller?
Well,
smaller
I think you have to. Well, you got to play with who you have. I mean, and, you know, so part of that is from an injury standpoint. I don't think we've really been at full speed on our defensive line, and you got to be able to generate a pass rush, so we don't have to stay in coverage all the time. However, if you feel like you have to add blitzers to generate the pass rush, then you're going to put your receivers, put their receivers more opportunities versus man coverage. So it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes. So, you know, how do we generate pressure on the quarterback but still be sound enough in our coverage that we're not just playing zero blitz the entire game? You know, and I think that's where sometimes we don't get home, you know, when we're bringing a blitz, and now our defensive backs don't have any help. They're one-on-ones and they're in one-on-one situations. And we faced a couple good quarterbacks. A kid from Washington State was a really good quarterback. Luton last week at Oregon State was a very, very accurate quarterback. Hasn't thrown an interception all year long. Had an outstanding receiver that we knew going into the game was going to be, you know, a problem. So it's being able to balance how many do you bring in the rush so that you can create pressure on the quarterback, but then have enough people in coverage. So I think it's a combination of the two things. If your coverage is better, then you don't have to. Then you can rush more people. If your coverage is not as good, then you have to rush less people. But when you rush less people, the quarterback has more time. So it's, you know, trying to balance that whole thing. And I think the biggest thing for us is making sure we know who's available and what we have, because we understand what their skill sets are, their traits are. Just who do we have? I think recently we've just been banged up. You know, Elijah hasn't played since the Washington State game. He comes back. You know, he's obviously been a real bright spot for us on the defensive line. You know, and I think if we can continue to get kids like him back, it was unfortunate. We had Martin was out for a couple of days with an injury and thought, he was going to really help us because he is a really good pass rusher, and he got hurt in pregame warmup, against Oregon State the other night. So it's really trying to figure out how we can do a better job manufacturing a pass rush, but not going all out and playing cover zero the whole time, because when that happens and you don't get home, there's a really big chance for a big play. So.
How does Keyshawn help out with the pass rush?
Keyshawn has helped out, so I think we've got the fact that we got him back, and he was a key guy, especially in the second half in the Washington State game, and part of that comeback. And as we continue to grow him, and he starts to get his feet underneath him and gets a little bit more comfortable. But he was a big bonus. We were really fortunate that we had a chance to get him back, and that's what I talked about. Kind of consider what he had was if you looked at it like an injury. Well, he was out for the first couple of games, so we got a little bit more pass rush with him back now. If we can add Elijah back to the mix and some of those other guys back, then I think we'll do a better job of creating pressure on the quarterback.
Did Dale Howard hurt his hand in the Oklahoma game, or is that a new injury?
Yes, it's a new injury. It's on his other hand.
When do you start preparing for Stanford?
We've already watched tape as a staff. Our coaching staff is out today and tomorrow watching practices, and then they'll be back for Thursday's training session. And then Saturday is like a Monday for us, so that'll be our first earnest. But we'll still be able to. There's some similar things that Stanford does that we do, that we can give some looks today, and then on Thursday, just some base stuff from Stanford today and Thursday that we'll get, and then really get into game week on Saturday. Saturday will be like a Monday for us.
And then
last question.
Bye week, obviously. Do you think like the time off will physically help the team kind of, tackle these injuries, get healthy, kind of get the head back in the right
that's
place?
What the hope is. I don't worry about their heads. I think those guys, our players, have been fantastic in terms of their approach to everything. So, that's what you hope for. Some people have got their bye earlier. The one thing I know about buys is we don't schedule them. It's just however the schedule falls. So, it's whenever you have it, you take advantage of it. So this week, we're not in full pads today. We'll be the similar thing we'll have 2 this week on Tuesday and Thursday. They were off Sunday, Monday. They'll get a little lift in tomorrow. They'll be off on Friday, and then we get back into game week. So you hope that the week off gets a chance to heal some of those guys up. The guys that don't have long-term injuries, the kids that are a week. It's at a good time. It's really at the halfway point of your season. So we've played 6, and we get an opportunity to play the second half of the season with a little bit of a break in there. So you hope that's what the plan is. So knock on wood that we'll get a couple more guys back and be ready to go when we start training on Saturday for Stanford.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.